Hey y'all, this is Miss Mo for the last of 2.3. In the last video, we found slopes of sets of points, and we came up with point slope equations that we then distributed and got y by itself for slope intercept, given a point and a slope, or just given 2 points. Now we're going to do the same thing, get the point slope and the slope intercept, but when given kind of awkward information like an x-intercept or an x-intercept and a y-intercept. What? Okay, so first, if we remember back to section 2.2, in the how-to steps, the tricks, it says x-intercepts right here look like a number comma 0, and y-intercepts are a 0 comma number. So for this problem that says the point 9,5 and the x-intercept -4, I'm going to change that to -4, 0 as my x-intercept. And then on the next problem, instead of this -4/9, I'm going to change it to a point, -4/9, comma 0. And then for this y-intercept of 6, I'm going to change it to 0, comma 6. Okay, now that I have points, I can do what I was doing before, where you find the slope using the slope formula, then you plug it into the point slope, and then you distribute. So let's find the slope using the slope formula. The slope formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And these points, the 9,5 is x1, y1. And this x-intercept -4 is now x2, y2. Okay, so now when I plug in my numbers to this formula, I'm going to have y2, which is 0, minus y1, which is 5, all over x2, which is -4, minus x1, which is 9, and that gives me -5 over -13, or that spits out a +5 over 13. So that's my slope. It's kind of gross. Okay. So my first step was to find the slope. My second step is to throw it in that y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so my m is 5 over 13. So let me put that where the m is. We know my x1 and y1, they're 9 and 5. So let me throw that in. And notice that the x and the y stay the same. There's still a letter. Okay, so this is one of our answers. It's the point slope. And then now to finish it, we're going to distribute and get y by itself. So we're going to get y minus 5 equals a fraction times x is fraction x. To do 5 over 13 times -9, we can do it in our head, or let me just throw it in the calculator. I'm going to put 5 over 13 in parentheses because I'm paranoid. And then I'm going to multiply it by -9, and I get something. So press math, enter, enter. And I get -45 over 13. And then I'm almost done. Now I have to get y by itself so I can get slope intercept. And when I add 5, I don't just add 5 to the top of the fraction to get -40. I have to come up with a common denominator. And if you don't want to do that, you can throw it in your calculator. I'm using parentheses around my fraction because I'm paranoid. And then I'll put +5. And I get another decimal, but I press math, enter, and hot dog, it gives me 20 over 13. A plusative 20 over 13. And that's my slope intercept. Woohoo! Okay, now let's look at this part B. It started off the same with x-intercepts as a word, and I changed that to number, comma, 0. And then the y-intercept is bass-ackwards. It's 0, comma, a number. So my first step is I'm going to get my slope. So let me use that y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 formula. And now I'm going to throw in my numbers. I haven't labeled my numbers. Okay, this x-intercept is x1, y1, because it's the first point. This y-intercept is x2, y2, because it's the second point. Okay, so on the top, I'm going to have y2, which is 6, minus y1, which is 0, all over x2, negative 4 over 9, minus x1, crap. I meant to say x2 is 0, poop, oh, poop, 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 0 minus my x1 is negative 4 over 9. Ugh, that was rough. Okay, and that spits out 6 over a plusative 4 over 9. And then if you want to divide this using pen and paper, you do keep, change, flip, where you keep the 6 the same, and then you flip the 4 over 9 to become 9 over 4. Or you can just throw it in your calculator. I'm going to use parentheses around the 4 over 9. So I put 6, divide sign, parentheses 4 over 9. And then press math, enter, and we get 27 over 2. Okay, so that's my letter M. Now it's my second step of plugging all my goodies into this y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So my m is 27 over 2. In my parentheses, I'm going to have x minus whatever my x1 was, which was negative 4 over 9, equals, on the left, we have y minus my y1 was 0. Okay, and all we're going to do is clean up the double negatives, and that will be your first answer in your homework. So this is your point slope, and you type it all, even the minus 0, only the double negatives, you make a plusative. Okay, now we're going to finish it by distributing that fraction and getting y by itself. Well, y minus 0 is y. So it is by itself. But we just need to distribute, and that'll be good. So fraction times x is fraction x, 27 over 2x. And then if you want to multiply these in your calculator, I would use parentheses, like parentheses 27 divided by 2. Then another parentheses 4 divided by 9. Hey, and we get 6, like a big fat plus 6. Woohoo! That's the slope intercept. So now we're going to get started on 2.4, and 2.4 is pretty much the same thing, slopes and these formulas over and over, but it's talking about parallel and perpendicular. So real quick, parallel are two lines that have the same slope. So if we look at our 2.4 tricks, here they are. Parallels have same slopes, and perpendiculars have negative reciprocals. It's called negative because they're opposite directions. Like if you have a slope that's positive on one line, on the perpendicular line, it's going to be negative, or vice versa. And you flip upside down the fraction of whatever they give you. So if they give you 6 over 7, it becomes 7 over 6. Or if you have like 2 over 1, that becomes 1 over 2 with a negative on it because it's a negative reciprocal. Okay, so if we look at this first example, it says write an equation in point slope, then slope intercept. That's what we've been doing. If it's parallel to this through this point, well, this point is definitely x1, y1. Okay, the slope for this y equals mx plus b is the m, is that -5. So we have a slope and we have a point. The only thing is we need to remember what parallel means. Parallel means they have the same slope. So it's like they gave us the information for the bottom line and we're trying to come up with an equation for the top line, which is parallel. So parallel means same slope. So my first step is to find my new slope. And my new slope is the same as my old one, -5, because they're parallel. Woohoo! The second step is we use that y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we're gonna get y minus my y1 is -6 equals my m, not my old m, my new m, which just so happened to be the same. -5, parentheses, x minus my x1 is -7. And then you're just gonna clean up these double negatives and type it in your homework for the point slope. Okay, now to finish it for slope intercept, you're gonna distribute and get y by itself, just like the last section. So you get y plus -6 equals multiply -5x multiply -5 times +7 is -35. Okay, then you're gonna -6 and you get y equals -5x minus 41. Hey baby, this is the parallel and it's in slope intercept. And if you wanted to check yourself to see whether they are parallel, you could graph the original -5x plus 5 by going to y equals, type it in your equation, x is right here, and then pressing, and then going down to y2 and typing our ending answer, -5x minus 41. So these two equations have the same slope, but different y-intercepts, so they should be parallel. And if we look, I see one picture, I see another picture, they're both parallel, woohoo. Okay, if you notice on this problem, we didn't even use that y-intercept of the equation they give us. That's supposed to happen. All we use from that equation they give us is the slope. Okay, let's go to part B. It says pretty much the same thing, only perpendicular, and we got a fraction and a point. Okay, so first, this point says 8, -4. That's x1, y1. Second, this mx plus b. The m is the 1/4. Third, perpendicular means negative reciprocal, or change the signs and flip that baby upside down. So my first step is to find the new slope. And since it's a negative reciprocal because perpendicular, I'm gonna take that 1/4 and flip it upside down to make 4/1 with a negative, because it's a negative reciprocal. And that just divides out to be -4. So that's your new slope, -4, for your perpendicular line. Your second step is to throw my goodies into this y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. Whoops, I don't know what that was. Okay, I got excited because I was talking in that voice. Okay, so remember, we don't use that +2 y-intercept for anything. Okay, so we got y minus y1, negative 4, equals my new slope, not the 1/4, what we got when we flipped it upside down, this negative 4. Parentheses, x minus x1 is 8. Okay, then you're gonna clean up this double negative on that y minus negative 4. And that's your first answer in your homework for point slope. Then we're gonna distributize, and we get y plus 4 equals negative 4x positive negative 4 times 32. And then finish it, get y by itself. So I think we're gonna subtract 4. And when you subtract 4 from 32, you get positive 28. Hey, baby, done. That's your slope intercept. Woohoo! Okay, let's look at the next sucker. It still gives us a point, x1, y1, huzzah, negative 9, 3. Okay, it says parallel, that means same slope. But then the equation they gave us is all jacked up. So the only reason we were able to just keep our slope the same on this first example, or flip our slope upside down on this second example, is because it was already in y equals mx plus b. This sucker is not. So on this problem, our first step is to get y equals mx plus b. Go! So I'm gonna subtract the 5x. I'm gonna add the 7. And you get negative 6y. Cankle, cankle, equals mx plus b, negative 5x plus 7. Then this negative 6 is multiplying, so we're going to divide. And we get y equals positive 5 over 6x minus 7 over 6. I got a positive 5 over 6 because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, so let's remember, what the heck was the point? Oh yeah, we were trying to find our slope. So my slope for the original line they gave us is 5 over 6. My second step is to find the new slope. Well, the new slope, since we're parallel, is the same as whatever slope I got for the first line, which is 5 over 6. Okay, my last step is to throw it in that y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You might be thinking, isn't that just gonna give me my first equation? Nah, bro, because now I got a different point I'm gonna use. So this equation that they gave us is the first line. We're coming up with a second line that's parallel. So we got y minus, what's my y1? 3 equals that slope. That was the same because it's parallel. 5 over 6, parentheses, x minus my x1 is negative 9. Then you're gonna clean up the double negative, and that's point slope. Now let's distribute and get y by itself. So you get y minus 3 equals 5 over 6x plus 15 over 2, maybe? Let's see. 5 over 6 times 9. Hot dog, 15 over 2. So I multiplied 5 over 6 times positive 9, and I got 15 over 2. And then I finish it in minus 3. And no, that does not make 12 over 2. You got to do a common denominator. I think it makes 9 over 2. Let's check. Heck yeah, 9 over 2, positive. Okay, so this is the equation that's parallel to that original equation they gave us. So if you want to check yourself, you can graph both y equals equations. So this sucker with the 9 over 2 and this sucker with the 7 over 6, we could graph both of those and they will be parallel. Okay, last couple of problems. It says find the average rate of change. Okay, average rate of change is real important. It's basically like the slope, but average rate of change in real life is like inflation. And inflation is a rise in prices, which can be translated as the decline of purchasing power over time. So rate of change is how something changes over time. Or if you're a nurse, you might have to figure out some IV calculations, the IV drip, the flow rate. And like this lady did it, and she said 33.3 drops per minute. So average rate of change is how something changes over time, whether it's how many drips per minute, or if it's inflation, how the cost of something changes over time, but that's average rate of change. Okay, so it says some how-to steps. It says first, label x1 equals A and x2 equals B. So x1 is 0, and that's my A. x2 is 7, and that's my B. Okay, that's my first step. My second step is to find f of A and f of B by evaluating or plugging in your numbers into the original problem where the x's are. So if I want f of A, that's like saying f of 0, and f of B is like saying f of 7, because I just told you that B was 7 and A was 0. Okay, now we plug these numbers into this equation like what we did in 2.1. So f of 0, if we plug in a 0 to this equation, 3 times 0, that gives you 0. If I plug in 7 into this equation, we get 3 times 7, or 21. Okay, now let's see. It says throw all into the formula above. So the formula above says f of B minus f of A all over B minus A. So we just found these. B is this 7 minus A, that's the 0. Okay, but then for the f of B, let's see here, f of B, here she is. It was equal to 21. Minus f of A is, let's see here, here's f of A, and that sucker was 0. Okay, and then when I subtract this, I just get 21 over 7. And your answer is either a whole number or a reduced fraction. So I think when you divide this, it's a big fat whole number. 3. So that could represent 3 drops per minute with this little lady, or it could mean inflation rises $3 a month, or something like that. Okay, let's do this next one. Again, we say x1 is A, so 1 is A. x2 is B, so B is 2. Then we find f of A and f of B, which is where you plug in the number. So f of A is like saying f of 1. And I'm going to take that 1 and to plug it into this original equation where the x's are. So I'm going to have 1 squared plus 4 times 1. And 1 squared is 1 plus 4 equals 5. Okay, now let's plug in the 2 into both of these x's. So we're going to have 2 squared plus 4 times 2. And I think that makes 4 plus 8, and that's 12. Okay, now we're going to throw it into this formula that says f of B. So f of B is 2. Now, bro, f of B was what we got when we plugged in 2, as in 12. Minus f of A is not 1. It's what we got when we plugged in 1. So 5. All over B minus A. So B is 2 minus A is 1. And we get goodness, what is that? 7 over 1? Or just 7? Huzzah!